The arena fell completely silent as Warcast Vrex charged forward with a roar that shook the walls. His four clawed arms moved in a coordinated attack pattern that had killed dozens of opponents over his long career. The massive Krex warrior expected to end this fight in seconds, crushing the small human who dared to challenge hegemony supremacy. Lisa did not move until the last possible moment. Her human brain processed Vrex's approach in slow motion, calculating speed, angle, and intent with the precision of a computer. When she finally acted, it was with the fluid grace of water flowing around stone. She slipped sideways and down, letting Vrex's momentum carry him past her while her fist struck the joint where his rear left leg connected to his carapace. The blow was perfectly placed and timed, hitting the one spot where even Krek's armor was vulnerable. Vrex stumbled, but recovered quickly, spinning to face her with newfound respect in his compound eyes. "You are faster than I expected, human," he admitted through his translator. "But speed alone will not save you." The Krex warrior changed tactics, advancing more carefully this time. He used his reach advantage to keep Lisa at a distance while probing for weaknesses with quick strikes from his claws. Each attack came close enough to cut the air near her face, but none found their target. Lisa watched and learned with each exchange. Vrex was skilled and experienced, but he fought like a machine following programmed responses. He had dominated opponents for so long through superior strength and armor that he had stopped adapting. Every movement followed patterns that Lisa's hunter instincts could read and predict. The crowd watched in growing amazement as the tiny human not only survived against the galaxy's most feared warrior, but began to take control of the fight. She moved like flowing water around Vrex's attacks, striking pressure points and joint connections with surgical precision. "Impossible," whispered the Krex commentator, as Lisa landed another hit on Vrex's shoulder joint, making his right arm go partially numb. "No being should be able to penetrate our warrior's defenses so easily." But Jake could see what was really happening. Lisa was not fighting like a Krex or any other alien species. She was fighting like a human being whose ancestors had taken down mammoths and saber-toothed tigers with nothing but cleverness and perfect timing. Every strike served a purpose, weakening Vrex's mobility and coordination while avoiding his natural weapons. Vrex began to show frustration as his attacks repeatedly missed their mark. He increased his speed and aggression, but this only made him more predictable. Lisa read his intentions in the micro-movements of his carapace and the angle of his compound eyes. She knew what he would do before he knew it himself. The turning point came when Vrex overextended himself in a furious combo attack. Lisa dropped low and swept his legs while simultaneously striking a nerve cluster behind his knee. The massive warrior crashed to the arena floor with enough force to crack the reinforced surface. Before Vrex could recover, Lisa was on him. But instead of delivering a finishing blow, she grabbed his right arm and twisted it behind his back in a control hold that made it impossible for him to use his superior strength. The crowd gasped as they realized the small human had the galaxy's greatest warrior completely helpless. "Yield," Lisa said quietly, applying just enough pressure to make her point without causing permanent damage. For several seconds, Vrex struggled against the hold, his pride warring with the reality of his situation. Finally, his translator carried his reluctant words to the stunned audience. "I yield." Lisa immediately released him and stepped back, offering her hand to help him stand. The gesture of respect and mercy shocked the watching aliens even more than her victory had. In Krex culture, defeated enemies were shown no consideration But this human warrior helped her fallen opponent with genuine concern for his dignity. Vrex accepted her assistance, his compound eyes studying Lisa with something approaching awe. "You fight with honor, human warrior. I have never encountered such skill combined with restraint." Ambassador Threx stood frozen in the arena's center, his mandibles clicking frantically as he processed what had just happened. The hegemony's greatest champion had been defeated by a 19-year-old human cadet who had shown mercy to her enemy. Everything he thought he knew about galactic power structures had just been proven wrong. "The trials are concluded," Director Corveth announced, his voice carrying across the silent arena. "Humanity has achieved victory in all 3 contests." The crowd erupted in chaos. Beings from dozens of species cheered, roared, or made sounds of celebration in their native languages. Others sat in stunned silence, trying to understand how their worldview had been turned upside down in a single day. But the real impact was happening across the galaxy as trillions of beings watched the broadcast. On Thoria Prime, young warriors demanded to know when they could train with humans. The Selenite Council immediately voted to propose a military alliance with Earth. Even species that had never shown interest in combat began asking questions about human fighting techniques. Jake found Lisa in the medical bay where she was having a cut on her arm treated by alien doctors. She looked tired but satisfied as her brother approached. "How does it feel to be the most famous human in the galaxy?" he asked with a grin. Lisa laughed. "Weird. All I did was apply what Commander Zefak taught me about reading opponents and staying calm under pressure." Dr. Brooks entered the medical bay carrying a communication device filled with messages from across the galaxy. "Lisa, you need to see this. We're getting military partnership offers from 37 different species. The Arcturus Assembly wants to establish a joint defense academy. Even some hegemony member worlds are asking for human military advisors." Ambassador Threx appeared in the doorway, his posture much more humble than it had been a week earlier. "Cadet Murphy, I come to request a private audience." Lisa stood and faced the alien diplomat with the same calm confidence she had shown in the arena. "Of course, Ambassador. What can I do for you?" "The Hegemony Council has voted to revise our position regarding humanity," Threx said carefully. "We wish to propose an alliance rather than the subjugation we originally intended." "That's very generous," Lisa replied, "but you should probably discuss that with Earth's actual government. I'm just a student." Threx's compound eyes reflected something that might have been amusement. "Cadet Murphy, after today, you are far more than just a student. You have become a symbol of what humanity represents to the galaxy." Over the following weeks, the Academy transformed into the hub of a new galactic order. Human instructors arrived to teach combat techniques to eager alien students. Military exchange programs were established with dozens of worlds. The Academy's enrollment requests increased by over 300% as young beings from across the galaxy sought to learn from the species that had changed everything. Lisa found herself at the center of this transformation, but she handled the attention with the same grace she had shown in combat. She taught classes on human fighting philosophy, emphasizing the importance of knowing when not to fight and how to show mercy to defeated opponents. Commander Zefak became one of her most dedicated students, learning human techniques to incorporate into his own training methods. "You have taught me," he told her one day, "that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when destruction is necessary." Warcast Vrex surprised everyone by requesting transfer to the Academy as a student. rather than returning to the hegemony military. He wanted to understand how he had been defeated and to learn the human concepts of honorable combat. "Your species fights with a philosophy I have never encountered," he explained to Lisa during one of their training sessions. "You seek to end conflicts with minimal harm to all parties. This is a strength the galaxy desperately needs." Dr. Brooks established the Interspecies Combat Research Institute, studying how different species could learn from human fighting techniques while contributing their own strengths. The research led to new forms of martial arts that combined human speed and adaptability with alien natural advantages. Jake was promoted to colonel and given command of the first integrated human-alien military unit. His team of special operators became the core of a new galactic rapid response force designed to handle threats too dangerous for conventional forces. But perhaps the most significant change was in how the galaxy viewed conflict itself. The human concepts of proportional response, mercy to defeated enemies, and fighting only when necessary began to spread throughout galactic military doctrine. 6 months after the trials, Lisa stood before the Academy's graduating class as its valedictorian. Representatives from over 100 worlds watched as she delivered her speech. "When I first came to this academy," she began, "most of you saw humans as weak primitives from a backward world. I won't lie, that hurt. But it also taught me something important about the difference between seeming strong and being strong." She gestured to the mixed crowd of alien and human cadets. "True strength isn't about being the biggest or having the most powerful weapons. It's about knowing how to use what you have wisely when to." The Hegemony War Fleet arrived at the Academy 3 days later like a storm cloud blotting out the stars. 12 massive battle cruisers took positions around the space station, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could destroy entire planets. At the center of the formation floated the flagship Dominance, a vessel so large it cast shadows across the Academy's observation decks. Ambassador Threx stepped onto the docking bay surrounded by an honor guard of Krex warriors. The insectoid diplomat stood 7 feet tall, with chitinous armor that gleamed like polished obsidian and mandibles that could snap steel cables. His compound eyes reflected the station's lights as he surveyed the mixed crowd of alien faculty and students who had gathered to witness his arrival. Director Corveth met the delegation with all the diplomatic courtesy he could manage, though Jake could see the fear in the Centaurians' movements. The Hegemony controlled 40 star systems and commanded the largest military force in the galaxy. When they spoke, lesser species listened. "Ambassador Threx," Corveth said with a formal bow, "the Academy welcomes you and your delegation." Threx's reply came through a voice translator that made his words sound like grinding metal. "Director Corveth, we come not as guests, but as representatives of galactic order. The recent events on this station have disturbed the peace that the Hegemony has worked centuries to establish." Jake stood with Lisa and Dr. Brooks in the crowd, studying the alien warriors. The Krex were built for war, with natural armor and razor-sharp limbs that could cut through most materials. Behind Threx stood Warcast Vrex, the largest Krex that Jake had ever seen. The warrior's black carapace was scarred from countless battles, and his eyes held the cold intelligence of a born killer. "The humans," Threx continued, his compound eyes focusing on the small group of Earth representatives, "have revealed capabilities that threaten the established order. Species throughout our territory are questioning whether the strong should rule the weak, inspired by videos of primitive beings defeating their superiors." Lisa stepped forward before Jake could stop her. "Ambassador, with respect, we didn't defeat anyone's superior. We defended ourselves against an unprovoked attack. Threx's mandibles clicked with what might have been amusement. You speak boldly for such a small creature. Tell me, human child, do you believe your species is superior to the Krex Empire? I believe, Lisa replied calmly, that strength isn't measured by size or the number of ships in your fleet. It's measured by how you use what you have. The tension in the docking bay became thick enough to cut with a blade. Several alien students backed away as Threx moved closer to Lisa, towering over her like a living nightmare. But the young human held her ground, meeting his compound gaze without flinching. Your words will be tested, Threx declared. The hegemony challenges humanity to formal combat trials. If your species loses, Earth will be placed under our protection, for its own good and the good of galactic stability. If somehow you win, humanity will be granted full citizenship and military partnership rights. Dr. Brooks stepped forward. What are the terms of these trials? 3 contests, Threx explained. Individual combat, small unit tactics, and strategic warfare simulation. Each will be broadcast across the galaxy so all species can witness whether humans are truly as dangerous as recent events suggest. Jake felt his pulse quicken. This was what Earth Command had been preparing for since the Academy incident. We accept your challenge, Ambassador. Excellent. The trials will begin in 1 standard week. You may choose your champions from among all humans currently in galactic space. Threx paused, his eyes gleaming with predatory satisfaction. For individual combat, Warcast Vrex will represent the hegemony. He has never been defeated in single combat. Lisa looked up at the massive Krex warrior, studying his movements and posture. I volunteer to face him. The docking bay erupted in shocked whispers. Even Jake stared at his sister in disbelief. Lisa, you're 19 years old and still in training. Vrex is a professional killer. So are you, she replied quietly. But you're needed for the unit tactics trial. Besides, I started this when I hit Commander Zefak. I should finish it. Ambassador Threx's mandibles clicked rapidly with what Jake realized was laughter. The child volunteers to face our greatest warrior? How entertaining. Very well, human female. Prepare yourself for death. Over the next 7 days, the Academy transformed into a circus of galactic proportions. Ships arrived from across known space, carrying representatives from nearly 200 species. The trials would be broadcast to over 1 trillion beings throughout the galaxy, making it the most watched event in galactic history. Jake worked with a team of 5 other human Special Forces operators to prepare for the unit tactics trial. Master Sergeant Tony Rodriguez from the Army Rangers, Lieutenant Kate Wilson from the Air Force, Petty Officer First Class Mike Davis from the Navy, Staff Sergeant Lisa Chen from the Marines, and Captain Sam Johnson from Delta Force. Together, they represented the best of Earth's military traditions. Dr. Brooks took charge of the strategic warfare simulation, working with Earth's finest military minds through quantum communication links. The simulation would test not just tactical knowledge, but the ability to adapt and overcome superior forces through innovation and deception. Meanwhile, Lisa trained alone in the Academy's combat chambers. She studied videos of Krex anatomy and fighting techniques, looking for weaknesses that she could exploit. The insectoid warriors were incredibly strong and naturally armored, but they were also rigid in their thinking. They had dominated the galaxy for so long that they had stopped adapting. You know, she told Jake during one of their evening talks, everyone keeps telling me how dangerous Vrex is, but I've been watching him. He moves like he expects to win through intimidation alone. Jake nodded thoughtfully. Overconfidence is a weakness we can use. But Lisa, you have to understand what we're fighting for here. If we lose these trials, Earth becomes a slave world. Then we won't lose, she said simply. As the week progressed, the psychological pressure mounted. Alien news networks ran endless. Analysis of human combat capabilities, with most experts predicting easy victories for the hegemony. The betting odds heavily favored the Kreks in all three trials. But there were some surprising developments. Several non-hegemony species began placing large bets on the humans, apparently seeing something in the training footage that others missed. The Arcturus Assembly sent a message of support, while even some Thorian military commanders expressed private admiration for human fighting techniques. 2 days before the trials, Lisa received an unexpected visitor. Commander Zefak, now fully healed from their encounter, requested permission to see her. The Vorthan instructor stood at attention when she entered the meeting room. "Cadet Murphy," he said formally, "I have come to offer you training in advanced combat techniques. I have studied human fighting methods and believe I can help you defeat the Krex warrior." Lisa was surprised by the offer. "Why would you help me, Commander? I broke your jaw." Zefak's reptilian features showed something that might have been respect. "Because you showed me that strength and honor are not the same thing. The hegemony rules through fear and intimidation. You fight to protect those you care about. The galaxy needs to see the difference." For the next 2 days, Zefak taught Lisa techniques that pushed her human reflexes to their absolute limits. He showed her how to read an opponent's intentions through micro-expressions and body language, how to use an enemy's natural armor against them, and most importantly, how to remain calm when facing an opponent designed to inspire terror. The night before the trials, Jake found Lisa sitting alone in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. She seemed remarkably calm for someone who would face a professional killer in less than 12 hours. "Nervous?" he asked, sitting down beside her. "Terrified," she admitted with a smile, "but also excited. Tomorrow we show the galaxy what humans are really made of." Jake put his arm around his sister's shoulders. "Win or lose, Lisa, I'm proud of you." The video had been viewed over 2 billion times in just 48 hours. Across the galaxy, beings who had never heard of Earth were now studying every second of Lisa Murphy's lightning-fast response. The footage played on screens in Alien. Homes, military command centers, and government buildings on hundreds of worlds. Captain Jake Coleman stepped off the transport ship onto the Academy's docking bay with the easy confidence of a man who had seen combat on 6 different worlds. Lisa's older brother was 32 years old, built like a machine made for war, with the same green eyes and brown hair as his sister. The Navy SEAL insignia on his uniform meant nothing to most aliens, but Dr. Brooks had explained to Academy officials that Jake represented the elite of human warriors. Walking beside him was Dr. Susan Price, a woman in her 40s with short blonde hair and the focused intensity of someone who understood how brains worked better than most people understood their own thoughts. She carried several cases of equipment and data that would help explain to alien scientists exactly what they were dealing with when it came to human neurology. "Captain Coleman, Dr. Price, welcome to the Academy," Director Corveth said as he greeted them personally. The Centaurian's 4 arms moved in a gesture of respect, but Jake could see the wariness in the alien's ancient eyes. "I trust your journey was comfortable?" "Thank you, Director," Jake replied. "I'm here to see my sister and answer any questions you might have about human capabilities." The truth was that Jake had been ordered here by Earth Command after the incident video reached military leaders back home. The footage had caused almost as much excitement on Earth as fear in the rest of the galaxy. Finally, after years of being treated like primitive newcomers, humans had a chance to show what they were really capable of. They walked through the academy corridors toward the conference chamber, where the alien faculty was waiting. Jake noticed how other beings moved out of their way, some staring openly at the humans while others seemed to avoid eye contact entirely. Word had spread that more humans were coming to the station, and everyone wanted to see these mysterious warriors for themselves. "Before we begin the demonstration," Dr. Price said to Corveth, "I want to make sure you understand that what your people witnessed was completely normal human behavior." Lisa showed remarkable restraint in her response. Restraint? The director's voice carried disbelief. "She hospitalized our most experienced combat instructor." Jake stopped walking and looked directly at the alien leader. "Director, if that had been me instead of my 19-year-old sister, Commander Zefak would be dead." Lisa pulled her punch. The conference chamber held 30 of the Academy's senior staff, representing 15 different species. Jake stood in the center while Dr. Price set up her equipment. The aliens watched him carefully, trying to understand how this human could appear so relaxed while surrounded by beings who could crush him with their bare hands. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dr. Price began, activating a holographic display of a human brain. "What you witnessed was the result of millions of years of evolution on a world where the weak died young. Human neural pathways are designed for rapid threat assessment and immediate response." She pointed to different areas of the glowing brain model. "Our ancestors faced predators with claws, fangs, and strength far beyond human capabilities. Those who survived did so because they could react faster than conscious thought. This system is still active in every human alive today." Commander Vorth, a massive Thorian with skin like granite, raised his hand. "Dr. Price, are you saying that all humans possess such reflexes?" "Every single one," she confirmed, "though training can enhance them significantly. Captain Coleman, would you mind demonstrating some basic human combat techniques?" Jake nodded and moved to the center of the room. "I'll need a volunteer. Someone large and strong would be ideal." Commander Vorth stood up, towering over Jake by more than 2 feet. The Thorian weighed at least 4 times as much as the human and had arms thick as tree trunks. "I volunteer, but I will be careful not to hurt you, Captain Coleman." "I appreciate that, Commander, but please don't hold back. I need to show them what humans are actually capable of." The other aliens in the room shifted nervously as the two warriors faced each other. Vorth moved first, reaching out with his massive hands to grab Jake in what should have been an unbreakable hold, but the human was no longer where the alien expected him to be. Jake had slipped under the Thorian's arms and struck 3 pressure points along his opponent's ribs in less than a second. Vorth gasped and stumbled backward, his breathing suddenly difficult. Before he could recover, Jake swept the alien's legs and sent all 400 pounds of granite-hard muscle crashing to the floor. The sound of Vorth hitting the deck echoed through the silent chamber. Jake offered his hand to help the stunned Thorian back up. "Are you injured, Commander?" Vorth accepted the assistance, shaking his massive head in amazement. I did not even see you move. How is such speed possible?" "Training and genetics," Jake replied simply. "On Earth, this would be considered basic hand-to-hand combat. Nothing special." Dr. Price activated another display showing comparative reaction times between species. Human warriors can process and respond to threats in time frames that most Alien nervous system simply cannot match. Captain Coleman's demonstration was performed at roughly 60% of his maximum capability. The room erupted in whispers and shocked exclamations. Several faculty members stood and backed away from Jake, finally understanding that they were in the presence of something far more dangerous than they had realized. Furthermore, Dr. Price continued, humans possess what we call muscle memory, the ability to train complex fighting techniques until they become automatic responses. A skilled human warrior can defeat multiple opponents simultaneously without conscious thought. Jake demonstrated this by asking 6 Academy security guards to attack him together. The aliens moved cautiously, still not fully believing what they had witnessed. Within 30 seconds, all 6 were on the floor, disabled but unharmed. Jake had used their own momentum against them, turning their size and strength into liabilities. "This is impossible," whispered Dr. Yex, the Academy's chief medical officer. "Such small beings should not be able to overcome larger, stronger opponents." "On Earth," Jake explained as he helped the security guards to their feet, "size and strength matter less than speed, technique, and intelligence. We learned long ago that the biggest predator isn't always the most dangerous one." Director Corveth was quiet for several minutes, processing what he had witnessed. Finally, he spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "Captain Coleman, how many humans possess such abilities?" "Every person who has completed basic military training," Jake answered honestly. "And most civilians have at least some self-defense knowledge. We start teaching children these techniques when they're very young." The implications hit the alien faculty like a physical blow. Earth had a population of 8 billion humans. If even a small percentage of them had military training, they represented a fighting force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. "But surely," Commander Vorth said, still rubbing his ribs where Jake had struck him, "your people would never use such capabilities for conquest or aggression?" Jake's expression became serious. "Commander, humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We know the cost of conflict better than most species. We prefer peace, but we're very good at war when we have no choice." Dr. Price showed the final part of her presentation, displaying human military history. Battles where small numbers of human warriors had defeated much larger forces through superior tactics and individual fighting ability. The aliens watched in growing horror as they realized that Earth's military was not just well-trained, but had been tested in actual combat for millennia. The good news, Dr. Price concluded, is that humans also highly value concepts like honor, proportional response, and protection of civilians. "We don't fight for conquest or glory. We fight to protect what we love." As the demonstration ended, news continued to pour in from across the galaxy. The leaked video had caused stock markets to crash on 3 worlds, as investors realized they had completely misjudged humanity's potential. Military academies were already requesting human instructors, while some governments were quietly beginning to draft alliance proposals with Earth. But perhaps most significantly, young beings from dozens of species were arriving at spaceports across the galaxy, hoping to find passage to Earth or the Academy. They wanted to learn from these remarkable warriors who could move like lightning and strike with the force of thunder. Jake found Lisa in the Academy's medical bay, where she was visiting Commander Zefak. The Vorthen instructor's jaw was healing, well, though he would carry scars from her punch for the rest of his life. "I owe you an apology, Cadet Murphy," Zefak said through his reconstructed mandible. "I underestimated both your capabilities and your restraint." It was a mistake I will not make again. Lisa nodded respectfully. No hard feelings, Commander. I hope we can train together again soon. Director Corveth stood in his office high above the Academy's main levels, looking out at the stars through the giant window. The Centaurian was old, even by his species' long standards, with pale blue skin that showed the wisdom lines of 3 centuries. His forearms moved gracefully as he reviewed the reports coming in from across the station. The news about the human cadet had spread faster than he expected. Within 2 hours of the incident, every being on the Academy knew that Lisa Murphy had broken Commander Zephak's jaw with a single punch. The medical bay reported that the Vorthan instructor had suffered a shattered mandible, 3 broken teeth, and a severe concussion. He would need surgery and weeks of healing. Corveth's communication device buzzed with incoming messages from military leaders across the galaxy. The Thorian High Command wanted to know if humans were a threat to galactic peace. The Selenite Council demanded an investigation into human aggression levels. Even the peaceful Arcturus Assembly was asking questions about Earth's military capabilities. "Sir, the security footage is ready for review," announced Lieutenant Vex, Corveth's assistant. The young Krex clicked his mandibles nervously as he activated the wall screen. The recording began with a wide view of the training hall. Corveth watched Commander Zephak call Lisa forward and explain the demonstration. Everything looked normal until the moment of contact. The director leaned forward in his chair as he saw Zephak's strike connect with much more force than necessary for a training exercise, but what happened next made Corveth's blood run cold. The human girl's reaction was impossibly fast. The computer analysis showed that she had processed the attack, made a decision, and executed her counterstrike in just 0.2 of a second. Her body moved with a precision and power that seemed to defy the laws of physics for such a small being. "Run it again in slow motion," Corveth ordered. Frame by frame. The second viewing was even more disturbing. Lisa's eyes had tracked Zephak's movement and recognized the hostile intent before his hand even touched her face. Her muscles were already tensing for the counterattack while the slap was still happening. When she struck back, her entire body worked together like a perfectly designed weapon. "Sir, the human liaison is here to see you," Lieutenant Vex announced. Dr. Alan Brooks entered the office with the confident walk of a man who had seen many battles. The former Marine colonel from Earth was in his 50s with gray hair and scars that told stories of combat on distant worlds. He had been assigned to the Academy 3 months ago to help with human integration, but now he looked like he had been expecting this moment all along. "Director Corveth," Brooks said with a slight bow. "I assume you want to discuss the incident in Training Hall 7. "Indeed," Corveth replied, gesturing to a chair with one of his forearms. "Dr. Brooks, I must ask you directly. Are humans more dangerous than your species has led us to believe?" Brooks sat down and was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. "Director, what you saw today was not unusual for a human. It was actually quite restrained." The Centaurian's eyes widened. "Restrained? She nearly killed Commander Zephak." "If Lisa had wanted to kill him, he would be dead," Brooks said simply. "What you witnessed was a basic defensive response that every human child learns. We call it self-defense." Corveth activated the security footage again. "According to our analysis, Cadet Murphy's reaction time was 400% faster than the quickest recorded alien reflexes. How is this possible?" Brooks stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "Earth is what we call a death world, Director. For millions of years, my ancestors had to fight for survival against predators that could kill them instantly. We learned to react fast or we died. But surely your people have evolved beyond such primitive responses, now that you have technology and civilization. Evolution doesn't work that way, Brooks explained. Those survival instincts are built into our DNA. When a human feels threatened, their brain can process information and react faster than conscious thought. We've been training warriors for thousands of years, but the basic hardware was installed long before we picked up our first weapons. Lieutenant Vex clicked his mandibles again. Sir, there's more. The footage has been leaked to the galactic networks. It's spreading across dozens of worlds. Korveth felt a chill run through his body. Show me. The wall screen changed to display news feeds from across the galaxy. On Thoria Prime, military analysts were studying frame-by-frame breakdowns of Lisa's punch. The Selenite News Network was running debates about whether humans should be allowed in mixed military units. Even the entertainment channels were showing the video repeatedly, with excited commentators discussing the implications. The humans have been hiding their true nature from us, declared General Horex of the Krex Empire on one channel. This small, female warrior defeated one of our finest instructors with ease. What could their actual soldiers do? Brooks turned back to face Korveth. Director, I need you to understand something important. Lisa Murphy is not a soldier. She's barely out of high school by our standards. A trained human warrior would be significantly more dangerous. Are you threatening us, Dr. Brooks? No, sir. I'm trying to prevent a misunderstanding that could have serious consequences for everyone involved. Humans don't want to conquer the galaxy. We want to be part of it. But we also won't allow ourselves to be bullied or abused. Korveth activated his communication system and called for an emergency session of the Academy Tribunal. Within an hour, representatives from 12 species had gathered in the main conference chamber. Lisa sat at a small table in the center, flanked by Brooks and a legal advocate from Earth. The young human looked calm despite the serious nature of the proceedings. She had cleaned the blood from her face and changed into a fresh uniform. Her green eyes met each tribunal member's gaze without fear or shame. Cadet Murphy, began Magistrate Thurex, an elderly Thorian with stone-gray skin. You are charged with assault against a superior officer. How do you respond? Lisa stood and spoke in a clear, steady voice. Respected Magistrate, on my world, when someone strikes you with intent to harm, it is considered an attack. I defended myself using reasonable force. Reasonable force? Thurex's voice boomed through the chamber. You nearly killed Commander Zefak. Sir, if I had wanted to kill him, I would have struck his throat or temple. I chose to hit his jaw because it would stop the attack without causing permanent damage. That is what we call proportional response. The tribunal members exchanged worried glances. The idea that the small human had chosen the least harmful option while delivering such devastating force was more frightening than random violence would have been. Dr. Susan Price, a neuroscientist from Earth, was called to testify. She explained to the tribunal how human brains were wired for rapid threat assessment and response. What you saw was not anger or aggression, she said. It was a survival reflex that has kept our species alive for millions of years. Commander, Zefek was brought in on a medical stretcher, his jaw held together with metal supports. He could not speak clearly, but he managed to demand Lisa's expulsion and imprisonment through a voice synthesizer. As the hours passed, more news came in from across the galaxy. The leaked footage had caused panic in some sectors and excitement in others. Military recruiting offices on several worlds reported that young beings were asking if they could train with humans to learn such fighting techniques. The tribunal recessed for deliberation, leaving Lisa alone with Brooks and her advocate. She looked tired but not defeated. "Dr. Brooks," she said quietly, "did I do the right thing?" The old Marine smiled. "Lisa, you did exactly what any good soldier would do. You protected yourself and showed proper restraint. I'm proud of you." But Brooks was also worried. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was not the peaceful, primitive species they had assumed. The question now was whether that knowledge would lead to respect and partnership, or fear and conflict. As night fell over the academy, security feeds showed beings gathering in small groups throughout the station, whispering about the human who had changed everything with a single punch. Some looked excited, others appeared frightened, but all of them now understood that they had seriously underestimated the newest members of the galactic community. The investigation would continue, but the real question was no longer what had happened in Training Hall 7. The question now was what would happen next, and whether the galaxy was ready to accept that the small, seemingly weak humans from Earth might be the most dangerous warriors any of them had ever encountered. The Galactic Defense Academy floated in the dark space around Kepler 442b like a giant metal flower. Its silver towers twisted toward the stars while ships from dozens of worlds docked at its many ports. Inside the massive station, young beings from across the galaxy learned to fight together. Lisa Murphy walked through the main corridor with her head held high. The 19-year-old from Ohio had brown hair tied back in a tight bun and green eyes that missed nothing. She wore the standard gray uniform of a first-year cadet, but she stood out among the other students. Most of the aliens around her were much taller, with strange skin colors and extra arms or legs. She had been at the academy for 3 months now. Earth had only joined the galactic community 5 years ago, and humans were still new to everyone. Most aliens looked at her like she was some kind of interesting pet. They whispered about the strange little beings from the blue planet who walked on only 2 legs and had no claws or thick skin to protect them. Lisa did not mind the stares anymore. She had work to do. Today was combat training with Commander Zefak, and she needed to focus. The reptilian Vorthon was known throughout the academy as the toughest instructor. His green scales gleamed under the lights, and his yellow eyes could freeze a student with just a look. He stood 8 feet tall and had claws that could cut through metal. The training hall was huge, with white walls and a soft floor that could absorb the impact of falling bodies. 60 cadets stood in neat rows, representing 20 different species. There were the blue-skinned Thorians who looked like walking mountains, the quick Selenites with their silver hair and 4 arms, and the insect-like Kreks with their hard shells and clicking mandibles. Commander Zefak walked back and forth in front of them, his heavy feet making the floor shake slightly. His voice was deep and rough like grinding stone. "Today we learned the Thunder Strike technique," he announced. "This move can disable an opponent in seconds. It requires precision and power." Lisa watched carefully as he demonstrated the move, on a practice dummy. His clawed hand moved in a specific pattern, striking 3 points on the dummy's torso in quick succession. The dummy's chest caved in with a loud crack. Several alien cadets stepped back in fear. "Now you will practice on each other," Zefak continued. "Form pairs and take turns. Be careful not to actually hurt your partner. This is training, not war." Lisa paired up with Brix, a young Selenite who had become her closest friend at the academy. Brix had been kind to her from the first day, unlike many others who still treated humans like curiosities. They practiced the move slowly, getting used to the hand positions and timing. After 20 minutes, Commander Zefak called for attention. "I need a volunteer to demonstrate the proper technique," he said, scanning the rows of cadets. His eyes stopped on Lisa. "Human, come forward." Lisa felt her stomach tighten, but she stepped out of formation and walked to the center of the hall. All 60 pairs of alien eyes watched her. She could hear whispers in languages she did not understand, but she kept her face calm. "The human will be my demonstration partner," Zefak announced. "She will show you what happens when someone does not defend properly against the thunderstrike." Lisa nodded and got into a ready position. She had expected this. Zefak often picked on the human cadets during training. He seemed to enjoy showing how weak and slow they were compared to other species. She had seen him embarrass the other human students many times. Zefak raised his clawed hand and moved toward her in the standard attack pattern. Lisa prepared to take the gentle demonstration strike and fall down as expected. But something changed in the commander's yellow eyes. His movement became faster and harder than it should have been for a simple demonstration. The strike came at her face with real force behind it. This was not a gentle training tap. This was meant to hurt. Lisa realized in that split second that Zefak was planning to humiliate her in front of everyone, to show that humans were too weak to belong in the galactic military. His clawed hand connected with her cheek with a sharp crack that echoed through the silent training hall. Pain shot through her face, and she felt blood run down from where his claws had scratched her skin. The force of the blow made her head snap to the side, but something else happened in that moment. Something that surprised everyone in the room, including Lisa herself. Her body reacted without thinking. Millions of years of human evolution took over. Her ancestors had fought saber-toothed tigers and cave bears with nothing but their hands and quick reflexes. That ancient survival instinct flowed through her like lightning. Before the sound of the slap had finished echoing off the walls, Lisa's right fist was already moving. Her body twisted with perfect form, putting all her weight behind the punch. Her knuckles connected with Zefak's jaw just below his left ear with a sound like breaking wood. The 8-foot reptilian commander flew backward through the air. His heavy body crashed into the wall with enough force to crack the metal plating. He slid down to the floor, his yellow eyes rolled back and unfocused. 3 of his sharp teeth scattered across the training mat, along with drops of his green blood. The training hall became completely silent. 60 alien cadets stood frozen in shock, staring at the human girl who had just knocked out their feared instructor with one punch. Some of them had their mouths hanging open. Others had taken several steps backward. Lisa stood over Zefak's still form, her fist still clenched and ready. Her green eyes were bright with anger, but her voice was calm and steady when she spoke. "On my world, when someone hits you, you hit them back," she said to the room full of stunned aliens. Brix was the first to move. The Selenite rushed to Lisa's side and gently touched her bleeding cheek with one of his 4 hands. "Are you hurt badly?" he asked in a whisper. Lisa shook her head. The scratches on her face were shallow and would heal quickly, but she could feel something else happening around her. The other cadets were looking at her differently now, not like she was a weak little pet from a primitive world. Now they looked at her with something that might have been fear or respect, or both. Commander Zefak groaned and slowly sat up against the wall. His jaw hung at a strange angle, and green blood dripped from his mouth. He tried to speak, but only made gurgling sounds. 2 medical officers rushed into the training hall and began working on him with their healing devices. Academy security arrived within minutes. 6 guards in black uniforms surrounded Lisa, but they did not point their weapons at her. They seemed unsure of what to do with the small human who had just destroyed their most dangerous instructor. Lisa did not resist when they asked her to come with them. As she walked out of the training hall, she could hear the excited whispers starting behind her. The news would spread through the entire academy within hours. The quiet little human from Earth had shown everyone that appearances could be very deceiving. She had no idea that her single punch would change everything, not just for her but for all of humanity's future in the galaxy.